Okay, so welcome everybody, and we're really glad you're here. This is a very important event that we have scheduled today, and it's so excited to have speakers with us. So before we start though, I'd like to give you guys just a few brief guidelines. If you would, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Also, during this time of presentation, we will have a designated time for question and answer from the speaker. And once they take control of the platform, they'll give you more information about that. If you have questions about what they're saying, please post your questions in the chat, and they will address as many as they possibly can during that time. And if you would, please limit your chat to the focus of the event. And also at this time, we would ask that you not promote your organizations at all. But if you'd like to connect with us, we can give you information on how to do that later on. And if you want to have a copy of the recording, just let me know. We'll be posted on our YouTube page, and we can send you the link to that. All righty, so that's it on the guidelines. And at this time, it is my honor to let one person into the room first. Well, actually a couple. It is my honor to introduce to you Donna Miller from Vote Voiced and Mayte Aldrett with the Empower Project. But I do want to say one thing about Donna though, and I forgot to share this with them earlier when they first came on. I actually met Donna, I believe in 2019, and it was during the time that we were phone banking into Georgia. And at the time, she was really busy and could not join our event. And so what I did, what Move On did, we recycled our calls. And just so happened that I got to call her again. And I had forgotten. And she reminded me, she said, I believe that I have already talked to you when I was really busy or something like that, she said. And she said at that time she wasn't busy. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's kind of embarrassing, kind of good, but she was very kind with her response. And from that point on, she has become a member of our Indivisible group, is in most attendance of most of our events like this. And I have found her, and actually did a training for our Indivisible group earlier. And I just found her to be so knowledgeable and just so genuine in what she's doing for humanity, as far as voting is concerned and otherwise. So Donna, it's a privilege to have you. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about your organization, Vote Forward. And then the next speaker is from my home state. Hello, Texas. Her name is Mayte Aldrett, and she's with the Empower Project. It is so good to have you ladies here. Take it away. It's all yours now. And great. Welcome to those who were just logged on. Good to see you guys.
Thank you, Evelyn. Yes, so my name is Mayte Aldrett. I'll start by sharing my screen. Let's see. All right, can everyone see my screen? All right, sounds good. So my name is Mayte Aldrett. I am a coaching specialist with Empower Project, and I'm located in Houston, Texas. And I'm going to be talking to you today a bit about one of our calls to actions that we have today surrounding text banking and how exactly we're going to do that action. And we're also going to talk a bit about the type of voters that we might be engaging when we do this work. And so I'll let Donna really quickly introduce herself as well.
Hi, my name is Donna, and I'm the CEO and founder of Vote Voiced. And I've been so blessed to be here with Crystal Lake Indivisible, and so blessed to know Evelyn. And Vote Voice is a voter nonprofit, nonpartisan, and we are voter registration, education, mobilization, and we give information out about voter protection. And I do believe that voting is a duty. I do believe that people should not see voting as a burden. And I do believe that we need to expand voters. We have plenty of people who vote all the time. We just need to expand the people who are not voting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. Oh, yes, and I didn't really explain, but Empower Project, what it is really quickly is we essentially are like a supportive role for folks who are doing organizing on the ground. So whether it's trainings for those organizing soft skills or whether it's support with the tool that we provide. That is free to C3s and C4s, so that's what we're offering you today, so you can do this meaningful work as well. But before we do get started, we wanted to start with a really quick icebreaker. Hopefully we can all be honest. This question probably changes throughout the years and throughout the actual seasons and cycles. But as of today, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not at all and 5 being trailblazing, how civically engaged do you consider yourself to be? And so feel free, I know some of y'all already dropped your names and pronouns, but for those who haven't, feel free to drop your answer and introduce yourself as well. Nice, Roseanne, off to a good start. And it's totally fine, that's why we're here, regardless of whether we're a 1 or a 5, we're here to bump up that number. Nice. Nice to meet you, Bob. And let's see if anybody else wants to drop their answer in the chat before we move ahead. Nice. Thank you for bringing your family, Casey. It's nice to meet all of you. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So as y'all see, we have a good variety of voter engagement. And so there's always room for growth. And so that's why we're all here today. And so we're actually going to start off by with my segment talking about the Empower app and what we're actually asking to do when we're talking about text banking. So I'm really excited to introduce this app to you. This is an app that was made specifically to be in the hands of volunteers. So it's meant to be pretty accessible in terms of not having to navigate through the mess that tends to be in terms of canvassing. All you have to do is pretty much send text and see where people are at and make sure that they have what they need to show up to the polls. And so I wanted to start with a few foundational things, a couple definitions, just so we're all on the same page and have an understanding of what it is, the work that we're actually doing. With the text banking that we're doing, we're approaching a form of organizing. And organizing is the process by whatever means of moving a group of people to create or resist change. And so we at Empower have a lot of trainings on that. So if that's something that's intimidating for you, we can even definitely have a one-on-one if that's something you want to talk about. But we're all doing this because we're working around power. And power, we define it as the capacity to create change. And we want to bring up this definition because we're actually lifting something that we all have and sometimes have yet to realize, and that's our people power. And so just to understand where our people stands in the grand context of things, we tend to present or come across 4 types of power. If we're to really simplify it, the first and the one that is most, probably most recognized and most primal is force. So sometimes violence. And that's probably not a power that we're trying to use. So there's a few other options that we have. There's resources. So that is a type of power. Whoever controls the resources has a lot of power over a population. We probably don't have control or access to all the resources. So the other options that we have are rules and institutions. And so that is the folks who are making the rules, the rules that we abide by in our society. And that's actually what we're trying to change. So what we're going to access is our people power. And so that's our shared ideas that motivates and creates mass movements. And so when we all share an idea about something that we want to change or resist, that is us pulling into our people power and recognizing that we definitely have power in numbers. And so I want you all to realize that we all hold that power. Sometimes we may simplify our relationships and just say, I go to and home work, all I talk to is the people at home. There's a lot of people on the way to everything that we tend to do and find ourselves in, whether it's our hobbies, our faith, everything that we involve ourselves in involves relationships. And that itself holds power when we're trying to talk about something that impacts all of us. And so all that is to say, all positive change starts with when people turn to one another and recognize something needs to be done. And so that's something you all have come to realize by showing up here and looking for ways to take action. And so that really starts with conversation. And that's essentially what the foundation of organizing is with conversation. And so change, when we're looking at it, can be pretty intimidating when we look at it at the institutional and societal level, but that's not what we're that's not what we're asking you to do. That is very intimidating, and that takes, again, a lot of people power and a lot of conversation. So we're asking you at the interpersonal level to really consider where people are coming from and how people place themselves around an issue, in this context being why people either are or not showing up to the polls. And so also in terms of yourself and where you place yourself in your relationships, you hold a lot of power in talking to especially unlikely voters. So when we talk to people that we have relationships with, these are people that care about us and that we care about. We tend to hold at least some level of mutual trust and respect. And so that means those are the people that we're most able to approach about topics that may be sensitive to some. And so we, again, are using that people power to have people really start placing themselves and what they can do about something that is impacting all of us. And so for that reason, the best conversation to have is with an unlikely voter, especially when it comes out to get out the vote. So it's those folks on the fence that we really have the ability to make change. But before we do all of that, you want to really get connected with your story, your reason for being here. And the reason being, it's really important in organizing to understand your own motivations before you start connecting to others. So this looks like asking yourself, in terms of your motives, what moved you to even take action to show up here? What inspired you to be here that may inspire others to do the same? And also considering what experiences you hold in your life that shape the values that called you to be involved today. Whether you've been involved in organizing work in other spaces, or if this is your first time, there's something that called you and motivated you, and that itself can inform the work and the conversations that you have. And so we're connecting with our story, we're getting in touch with our own motivations, with the understanding that self-interest is a universal motivator that drives us all. So to ask these questions, it can seem like selfish questions, but we should not place that negative connotation when we consider our self-interest, especially when we're trying to draw on what are those interests that we share with others. When we see those as a motivator in ourselves, we can start to understand what motivates other people, and that itself can help us make connections more easily with one another as well. And so lastly, before I do introduce the app to you, I want to remind y'all, in case you have not heard this before, but most often people take action not only because they can or because they want to, but because they were asked. So a lot of us, I'm sure at some point in our lives came to realize how big an issue in our society or in our city is. And we probably the first thing we ask ourselves is, what could I possibly as the one person do about this? But over time, you start learning more about issues, and you possibly start having conversations with others, connecting with people. And a lot of times when we find ourselves in organizing spaces, it's because someone asked us to do something. And we may have done it because we cared about that person, or because we cared about the issue, or both. But a lot of times it's someone showing us that path and opening the door for us. Sometimes we don't know how it looks like to take action and get involved with certain issues. But there's always people who have been doing this work before us and after us, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel. It's a matter of, again, building those connections in that community, so those opportunities can present themselves to us and our networks as well. And so now that I've established essentially a little foundation of organizing and what the point of all of this is and the power that we hold, I can now introduce to you the Empower app, which is something that we at Empower Project created for volunteers to do this work in a more accessible manner. So if you're not familiar with how organizers tend to do their work, they're connecting with lots of people at all times, whether it's community members, leaders, elected officials, other organizations, and those are a lot of conversations to keep track of. And you as a volunteer, we don't want you to be all flustered when you're talking to someone rustling through your notebook of notes. And so this tool is meant to help you keep track of things and just make it easier for you while giving us feedback about those conversations. And so essentially what we're going to show you is how to track your conversations that we're asking you to have on Empower. And so this is actually one of the first asks that we have for our volunteers is the task of downloading the app that is Empower. So I can drop this link in the chat. Actually, I might have to type it, but let's see. And so this is the download link to get connected and join our committee of Vote Voiced. And so Vote Voiced is doing work right now in Michigan, as well as Taylor, Michigan, to tap in with our community members and just see where they're at in terms of their voting process, whether they've given it any thought, or if they're already set to go, then those people are probably people who are enthusiastic and could have a couple conversations with people they know as well. And so we want to check in with people in our community, just make sure people have the resources and information they need to show up. And so we're going to be providing and pushing along these resources, dates, and updates through the app for you to pass along to your list. And so this again is something that Vote Voiced is running and is offering to you all. And so if you are able to, whether it's on your phone or on your computer, to start checking out and creating your account. I did want to say it's pretty easy and that you don't even have to create a password or keep track of one. When you do sign in with your email or your phone number, you'll either get an email or a text to authenticate and make sure it's you. And so when you do download the app, which is available on the Apple Store or Android, if you do have trouble finding the app, I can pass along those app download links as well. But this app should take you through the process. What you're going to do is create an account with either your phone number or your email. And when you're doing this, you're essentially signing up to receive information on these calls to actions that are rolling out. So you'll be informed on what it is the work that we're asking volunteers to do, and essentially equipping you to have these successful conversations. And so that, of course, involves getting feedback as well. So we want you to be pretty active in terms of recording the responses and just letting us know in terms of what are the needs. If people are asking a lot of the same questions, that's very important for us to know so we can continue to equip people with what they need. Does anybody have any questions about the app before I continue? All right, so I'll move along. And so I wanted to break down essentially how we're doing this work on Empower and how it is structured, just so you have an understanding of what's going on besides what you're seeing on your phone. And so the structure that we have on Empower, let me move some faces out of the way. The structure that we have on Empower is, if you see this purple circle, that purple circle is Vote Voice. So we're creating and writing up these calls to actions, looking up these resources, putting documents together that will be most useful to you and your contacts who maybe need that little nudge to get to the polls. And so you as a volunteer are actually the muscle power in terms of using the Empower app. So as we're equipping you with this information that you can pass along to others, you're getting familiar with these resources as well for you to pass along, not just to your text banking list, but you are very much encouraged to pass it along to your friends and family as well. And so this outer ring of contacts, we don't even expect them to know what Empower is or to hold it in their hands. Again, this is a tool for you to be able to do this work more easily. The only time a contact will have this app in their hands is at that point you've identified someone who's as enthusiastic as you to do the work, and we can invite them to help us out as well. And so now I can break down what the role for you guys will look like on the Empower app. So you all as volunteers, your role on the app is either so in our context, you'll be assigned a list of contacts that you would be engaging. And so you'll be talking to these people around these calls to actions that we're going to make available to you. And so these calls to actions are with the intention of providing you with the appropriate information to have a successful conversation about voting. So considering any questions that may come up, we're going to try to equip you as best as we can. But as you're having these conversations, this also gives us information into what are those gaps that we need to fill so people can show up to the polls. And so this is you providing feedback by logging the conversations that you're having. And of course, you have the ability to recruit other volunteers as well. So if you talk to someone who is pretty, I would say people who are great for recruiting are usually the folks who are saying, I really appreciate you doing this work. It means a lot and it's meaningful to my community. Those are people who are expressing enthusiasm about voting and that they think it's very important. So those are actually people that we could talk to about doing this work as well. And so that's essentially your role. We're very much not trying to complicate it. So this is a very basic app in terms of what you have to navigate. I mentioned this only because I know there are other organizing tools and they might have a lot of features and we're not asking you to navigate all those things. We're keeping things very simple so you can stay focused on getting the information that people need out. And so these people that we're talking about are contacts. We are going to be reaching out to registered voters and just making sure that they are aware about midterms. Sometimes we forget the importance of midterms since a lot of the buzz tends to be around presidential elections. And so we want people to keep these local elections in mind as well, because they are very relevant to all of us. And so your contacts are going to be people that you can talk to about this relevant issue because it matters to both of you. So you all as residents of the people that you're reaching out to, you already share a commonality. And right now in that initial conversation, you're gauging kind of where they're at. And so the person that you're talking to, you're starting a conversation either about this important issue or something that they can do, whether it's for themselves or for their friends and family. And again, some of these contacts may be recruited. You yourself may start to, as you start having these conversations, you might start realizing that some people are pretty enthusiastic and are grateful for this work that other people do. And we, again, sometimes it's a matter of just being asked. And so inviting them and making that ask just to see if they're interested usually doesn't do any harm, and a no is not a bad thing. That's just a part of the organizing work. No sometimes happens, and that doesn't mean an indefinite no. But now we can really get to the exciting part of what we're asking, the call to action that we're asking everyone to do. And so calls to action in the context of the Empower app are essentially an opportunity to engage one-on-one around a specific and concrete issue. And so this phone on the left is an example of a call to action. And so here we have an action asking friends and family if they're registered to vote. A very simple ask. It's a yes or no question. And what that informs us is that we probably want to follow up with those folks who said no. And so we want to check in with those folks and make sure they have what they need, that they're, if they don't know how to register, if they think it's a complicated process, we want to inform them on that. And so when you do have your first call to action, it'll be available. So what you see here is what you'll see as soon as you sign up. You'll have your actions and your network. So that's all you have to navigate. Any actions that we make available to you and the network. So the list that we assign you, or if you decide to build a list, then you want to talk to your people as well. And so to get started, you'll click on, so you'll click that purple button to start reaching out, and you can start anywhere on your list. Since this is a text banking list, you can pretty much start anywhere. And this is what you'll see. So this is an example of what you'll be seeing. So we'll actually have the text banking call to action launch on Friday, October 21st. And so this is a time where we just want to make sure people have what they need, whether it's to check out what's on their ballot, just have an idea of what they're voting for. We're going to be pushing along these resources. And hopefully they're helpful to you as well. They're very much for you to engage and check out and use as well. But these text bank calls to actions are prompts for you all to text this uploaded list of contacts. So you will have this list of contacts assigned to you. And we'll create a conversation starter. So we essentially draft out that first text for you. It'll usually say something like, "Hi, my name is blank. I'm volunteering with Vote Voiced because I think it's important for us to show up to the polls, especially for midterms." And then you can throw in that question of, are they registered to vote? If they have a plan to vote, really you're just going along with the questions that we have here. So if you want to get more in depth, you are welcome to do that. If the conversation is flowing well, we have a note section for any additional things that you pick up in that conversation. But we try to keep it short and simple for you, just because we are asking for your time, but we're also asking for our contacts' time, and we just want to make sure that we're learning those needs first. And so all you're doing is clicking text and hitting send and waiting for folks to respond with where they're at in terms of the voting process. Does anybody have any questions about this text banking feature? All right, so I'll continue. And so again, you're engaging in a one-on-one conversation. And so you can also edit that conversation starter. We want you to feel authentic in these conversations. If it's not using your voice, you can switch some words up so it sounds like you. But most importantly, what we're doing with these conversations is we're tracking how they went. So these prompts will be available for you, and these are created by Vote Voiced to start collecting information on, again, what are those gaps. So if people don't vote because they don't know anybody on the ballot, we know that that is a need that needs to be filled. And so we can start passing along resources to get familiar with our ballots. And so this is how it looks like to be logging these responses. So they'll turn green when you click them. If there is any shareable content, for example, if they don't have a plan for voting, you might want to pass along a voting checklist. And so it'll be available here for you to just copy and paste. And any notes that do come up that aren't part of the prompts that we asked of you to ask, you can always throw those notes in there, whether they're important for you to know or if it's something you want us to know. And then lastly, so you can, I mentioned a couple times about recruiting contacts to volunteers. So we can do that whenever we click on the actual contact. Every person will have the ability to invite them to the app. So it's pretty simple. You essentially have a link that you can pass along. You could pass this very link that I have in the chat as well. So they'll essentially do what you do to get into the committee of Vote Voice. And up here, you can always review the history if you're going through a second call to action. So this is the second conversation you've had with this person. You can always check out where you left off with this person in terms of your notes, and also review your action again if you need to get familiar with your talking points. So again, we want to reach out as many people as we can before election day. So keeping an ear out about those folks who do get excited when people talk to them about voting. But what you're seeing here is actually the first call to action you're going to see when you hop on the app. So this is what we call a personal call to action. So what you can expect on October 21st is a text banking call to action. But this personal call to action is a prompt where we're actually asking you to respond yourselves. I made this call to action, one, for you to get familiar with the app, but also to check out Vote Voice's website and just the topics that we will be covering when we are pushing out our asks to these people. So that's like checking if you're voting in person, making sure you know where your poll place is at, or learning how to vote by mail. And so this is what you will be seeing on your phone. And so these are actual screenshots that I took as a volunteer on Vote Voice. And so we have, thanks for joining Vote Voice on the Empower app. We want to start you off with a simple ask so you can get used to the tool. And so I'll go ahead and click get started, and it'll take me to the second, this middle phone here. And so here we wrote up a little context of, again, what we're doing here. But as you scroll down, pretty much what we're asking you to do is check out our voting plan checklist that we have available either on the app or on the website on Vote Voice for you to download, for you to review, get familiar with. Hopefully you are able to go through this checklist yourself as well. But of course, we want you to share it with friends and family if you can. Consider who it might be useful for, whether it's someone in your family that just turned 18 or someone who maybe hasn't been engaged in voting if you know that they have voted before. And so the prompts that we have for you are very simple. The first question is, were you able to download the checklist? Yes, no. If you have technical issues, we'll be able to see the folks who responded that way so we can follow up with you. And then the second question is a quick ask. I talked to someone about the checklist. So we want you to practice, even if it's with someone you know, just check in with someone and talk to them about it and just let them know this is something that's useful to me and I thought of you. And so I just want to pass this along to you. And so again, this is what you'll be interacting with. So if you download the app right now as we're talking, this is the first thing you'll get to engage with. And again, I've said it a few times, but it's important to record the responses on Empower because that's what we're counting on you to do. So we know what it is that people are needing in terms of resources and information. And so we'll be checking in with folks as well. If there are any issues, if you flag anything, we want to check in with you, make sure your conversations are going well. If you're coming across obstacles and not sure how to answer certain questions, we want to again, equip you for successful conversations so we can talk through how those conversations can go and how we can address certain topics that may come up. And so again, we're as hands-on as you want us to be. We are very much here as a resource, myself included, with an Empower project. And so we want you to take advantage of these resources if possible. Oh no. Sorry, I had a call come in. Let me pull y'all back up. Can y'all see my screen again? Okay, sorry about that. But that's what I have for y'all in terms of the app. So we'll get to the actual asks and how the commitments that are available if you're engaging with Vote Voice at the end after Donna's section. But before we do get into that, any questions for me? And feel free to come off mute as well if you have any questions. I see everyone is on.
Question.
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Just, I'm sure you said this, but you send us the list and it's like a certain area we're text banking, or we mix this with other groups we're volunteering with? And I'm just not clear on, the list, and if this is its own campaign, or if we use this when we're doing other volunteer work with other organizations.
So this list is specifically for Vote Voice. We don't want to bother these people about things that maybe aren't that they. So this list that we have are registered voters. So we want to.
This is all we need, this app, to get involved in a campaign.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great. Okay.
So so this list, we don't want to engage them for other things because that's something we would want to ask them permission for. So we want to strictly keep it about voting, just so we can continue to pass information and continue engaging them about things that are relevant to them. So there are other organizations that use the app, and you can be part of multiple committees. So if you're volunteering with multiple orgs and they're using this app, you can use that, but you would have to stick to their list because there's some intention that comes behind the list, and I wouldn't want to talk to other people that maybe, like if you're doing, I'm trying to think of an example, like some folks are doing specifically like youth outreach, and if you're talking to someone who's not a youth, they're probably going to be confused when you're talking to them.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure because you said you can add your own people, so I just.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, I get it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
No, yeah, but thank you for bringing that up. So that is something that you can do on Empower, but that is in the context of you talking to your own people. So we're very big on talking to our relationships, the people that we already are connected to. So if that's something you're open to doing, we're also going to push along a call to action for your people as well. And those are less scripted because your people will know if you're talking off a script. We want you to be authentic, and you know them better than we do, so we can't prescribe you a uniform way to talk to your people. But we'll definitely push that along as we get closer. But right now, what we're trying to do is just broadly reach out to people in Michigan, in the areas that we're working in, to make sure that they have what they need, since we tend to show in lower numbers for midterms. But thank you for that good question. Yes,
I'm sorry, could I ask a question also as a follow-up to Casey's question? This is just to clarify, say for example, I'm making calls to the list that you have given me. You populated my list, right?
Yes.
And then I'm talking to my my cousin. I can invite my cousin into that list also, right? Because it's my cousin. Is that what you're saying?
So yeah, you can build that list, but it won't get mixed with your what we call a canvassing list.
Got it.
Yeah, because we want to keep separate. The goal is always that we can bump that canvassing list to a personal list where we can engage them regularly. But we know that you would talk to those two lists differently, so we keep them separate. So you know that you're talking to your people versus like having to dig through them in a bigger list.
So what's the best preference then? Just to stick with your list then? Is that the best?
Yeah.
strategy?
Yeah, when we do want you to talk to your own people, it'll come out as a separate call to action. So a text banking call to action will only show an uploaded list that we gave you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if we make any other kind of ask, it will show up as in like, all right, start adding people so you can talk to your people. So you'll be prompted, so there won't be confusion on the app. So while this app is made by engineers, it's informed by organizers. So we're constantly giving feedback and receiving feedback from users on what makes most sense and when it's in your hands as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Wait, are there any other questions before we move on? Those are all good questions. If not, we'll have a little time after this next segment. So what we wanted to show you and talk to you about now is the different types of voters that you may come across. And so this segment is created and provided by Vote Voice, Donna Miller, the CEO of Vote Voice. And so I don't know if you wanted to give a little introduction or if I can go ahead and show.
Go ahead. I put everything inside of the video.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So feel free to take notes, but this is also going to be recorded, so it will be available to y'all. So we're actually dealing with 9 types of voters. So Donna gives a brief review of each type of voter and why we should consider them as we do this work.
Hello. Thank you for being here. My name
I think the audio's off.
Vision.
Y'all cannot hear my audio?
You can't hear it.
Not
Okay.
at the moment, yeah.
I'll take it back.
Okay, thanks.
I think it's because I went on mute, so I won't go on mute.
Things we want to talk about these specific types of voters are because they tend to slip through the cracks. Because we tend to envision a particular type of voter. Becoming aware of these 9 types of voters allows us to meet them where they are at, especially in the framework of relational organizing. There are 9 types of voters. Voting should be seen as a duty, not a burden. Let's talk about voters. Voters always vote, volunteer, and donate. When you contact the voter, they may become insulted if they are not properly recognized as a constant voter. The voter wants to be thanked and not taken for granted. When contacting the voter, thank them first. Then ask them if there is any voter information they may need. Lastly, ask them if they would like to volunteer or if they want to donate. Low propensity voters. Low propensity voters need longer call times. Texting is best as a reminder only a day or 2 before the election. You may need 3 times the volunteer force to reach low propensity voters and a deep canvassing format. The voter engagement group will need to allow extra time to explain the process of voting. More time to sit on the call as the low propensity voter looks for their absentee ballot, for example. More time is needed to assist the low propensity voter in requesting their ballot or help the low propensity voter find where to sign their ballot and the dates of their local and federal elections. Gray voters. Gray voters are on the fence. The gray voter may vote in an election once they are aware of the issues on the ballot. The voter engagement group needs to be aware of the local, state, and federal issues on the ballot to assist the gray voter to make an informed decision when voting. high school, college voters. High school students first learn how to vote through their parent. Imagine how special a young person would feel if they were to receive their very own get out the vote call. My granddaughter learned about voting from our family, and she was excited to vote at the polls. I learned from her the importance of voting for high school students. I learned from Next Gen the importance of voting for college students. There are organizations that reach out to high school, college voters. It is important not to forget them. If you are not sure which voters you want to concentrate on reaching out to, remember, high school and college voters are a wonderful group to start with your outreach program. Absentee voters, also known as early voting. During the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, more than 3.1 million Michigan voters cast their vote by returning their absentee ballots early. So far, in Michigan, 1.5 million voters are using absentee voting, early voting, because it is safe and convenient for many voters. Your outreach program goals should be to remind the voter of the importance of requesting their absentee ballot and returning it as soon as possible. And the most important reminder is signing their absentee ballot before they return it. And remind the voter they can check their Secretary of State's website and make sure their absentee ballot has been accepted. Overseas military voters. Let's talk about the Federal Voting Assistance Program. Every voter engagement program should have information about voting absentee while abroad or in the military. Your voter engagement program can find handouts and information your organization will need to reach out to voters at fvap.com. Incorporate the information in all your outreach tools, such as podcasts, YouTube, social media, and newsletters. It is good practice to have flyers on hand just in case you need them. Find all the tools you need at fvap.com and sign up for their newsletter. First-time citizen voters. New citizens can register to vote after participating in a citizenship and immigration services ceremony. New citizens must present proof of citizenship and declare they have established residence at their city clerk's office in their county of residence. The Michigan Secretary of State's office is on hand after the ceremonies to assist with new voter registrations. Nursing home and assisted living voters. This voter engagement outreach requires visiting voters in person, obtaining permission from each location, and preparing a mini voter registration drive. You may be required to sit in the lobby or given permission to visit door to door. Disabled voters. Voter engagement outreach programs should include helpful information for disabled voters. It may be their local Secretary of State website or other useful information while conducting a phone bank, text bank, tabling, or rally. In the wake of the 2016 election, it is no longer possible to categorize voters into a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or swing voter box. These newly created categories need to be addressed by voter engagement groups. Voter engagement groups should first learn how to micromanage voting groups by category. Voter engagement groups need to learn how to engage everyone who does not vote or does not know how to vote. Do not forget to add election protection information to your outreach toolbox. The toll-free number is 866-OUR-VOTE. That's 866-OUR-VOTE. Thank you for being here. I know your time is precious. I want to thank my partners. I want to thank Mayte for being with us today. And if you have any questions for either of us, you can put them in the chat or we will answer them directly. If you need to contact me, you can do it at Donna9Miller@votevoice.com and visit our website at www.votevoice.com.
Great. So Donna's not feeling that well right now. So I think this video did a great job of just close to the close to the next best thing. So hopefully everyone was able to receive that information and it will become accessible to you afterwards as well. But again, it is very important to keep these folks in mind and the variety of folks that we come across and may come across in our conversations. Just because some people are easily left behind just because they don't fit a certain box. And so that's also why a lot of us don't recognize the importance of midterms, is because we've been intentionally excluded to learn about the importance of them. And so we're here again to fill those gaps. So are there any questions on, oh, sorry. Let me see.
Hello,
Take it to the next slide.
thank you for being here.
There we go. Any questions about voters?
I don't have a
I
question.
just want to say,
Sorry, go on.
oh, go on. Real quick, share this information. It's out there for everybody. Share it in your voter engagement groups. I've made it for all of us. And Mayte and I are open to you sharing that information.
Yeah, I just really want to say thank you for sharing that, Donna. I mean,
Mhm.
I phone bank quite a lot.
Mhm.
And it's incredible. And it makes sense to me now when I'm talking to people and have different responses, or I'm having to talk to people in a longer kind of format and give more information. And sometimes it's just
Mhm.
simply active listening to their agony about voting. It makes so much sense
Mhm.
because when you're phone banking, you have a
Mhm.
certain strategy, a certain focus that you're guided to use. And I always find myself deviating from that structure. And now I understand why, because these people are all
Right.
so different. I really appreciate that.
Yes,
And I've talked to every
you're
category of
welcome.
person except military that you've listed here. And it has been, I wish I'd had this 5 years ago. It's amazing.
Yes,
It's amazing. And people do feel
we
left out.
have grown.
We have grown.
Yes.
Yeah, I just remember talking to a young man in Georgia, and he was at I don't remember the category now. I think it was the second one, but if that is where he was, it was like I spent 20 minutes on a phone call with him when we were supposed to use about 3 to 5
Low
minutes.
propensity
I can't
voter.
leave him. I can't leave him. I gotta,
You can't.
he wants to vote and he doesn't want to vote. And I'm in the middle, but I've got to walk him through the process. And I did. And he said, "Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to vote."
Exactly.
After 20 minutes. So it's
Yes.
critically,
And
I thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this. It's vitally
oh,
important.
you're welcome. And I'll tell you something else. When we have these phone banks and text banks, usually we have a goal. And I remember in 2020, we had a low propensity voter text bank 2 weeks before the election. And everybody had to work in order to make the goal from sun up to sundown because we did not allow the time it took. We didn't know. And when we have these phone banks, we need to give our phone bankers the time that they need to reach out to low propensity voters. You can't do it in a week. You can't do it in 3 days. You need to start early with the low propensity voters so you can make that goal. Because when you have a grant, they expect you to contact so many voters. We did it, but it was so rough. People had to work until 9 o'clock at night to get the goal that was given to us by the organization that was funding the phone bank. Any other questions, anyone? Well, you know what? Let's see, how much time? I'm done. If there's no one else has any
I have a
questions,
question real quick.
go right ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Just for these, I know you're gonna have different calls to action, but like, for instance, this text banking one that's coming up October 21st. How is that list? What kind of voters are those, or where did the list come from? And in other words, if we're gonna volunteer so many hours, is this a critical group or?
This is a list for people to remind people about the upcoming deadlines. So this
And
is a deadline text bank.
Previous
so
people who voted before?
We're probably gonna reach out to people who have usually voted and just make sure that they know that the 24th of October, Monday, they have to request their deadline. Their absentee ballot online. And so this is just to remind the people who have voted. If we might run into people, because this is a pretty big list, who said, I don't know how to do that, but we're going to try to have answers to send people to michigan.gov/vote.
And
let
it's
them
a
know
nonpartisan list?
it's nonpartisan. Vote Voiced is nonpartisan. And I put that in there. We never tell people who to vote for, but we do tell people to be informed about their ballot, and we're going to send them to Ballot Ready. Because on Ballot Ready, you don't have to put in your address to see the ballot in Michigan.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, so oftentimes these lists come from some so once you're registered as a voter, that is public information. And so a lot of the times these lists are essentially just registered folks in the state, in your area. So it will be a variety of voters. With this specific list, I'm not sure if we're prioritizing people who have voted at least once. But for this specific call to action, it's going to be a more broad, so it's possible to come across all these variety of voters.
And take your time, because the most important thing we want to do is help people to vote. And if you have to spend a little time with someone, take your time. You never know. A lot of people say, I have it covered. Thank you for being a voter, and move on. And you may have that also too, if anybody has been text banking for a while, you will receive ignorant people. Ignore them. Don't open up anything. We're going to have that information. Don't open up their videos. You know, they cannot call you. You shouldn't call them back. You know, you'll have people be belligerent and downright horrible to you. And I've had that.
Yeah, I would say, in not just in voting, but something as simple as the census, you will get all kinds of interactions as well. I remember phone banking and door knocking for the census, and some people were not receptive to it, but sometimes it's just because the lack of information was not there. And so I will say again, we are trying to, so when you do come across folks who say my vote doesn't count, or I don't vote because votes don't even matter. We want to remind folks that that is something, that is a rhetoric that we are being encouraged to believe, especially as certain seats start to get challenged and certain states are starting to swing a certain way. That rhetoric is almost invested in, like, financially, so for us to believe that our vote does not matter. And so it's the more number that believe that, the more it does become true. And so we want to remind folks that there are bad actors there who want us to believe that very claim. But that's also why we're talking to you today, because I want the people that I chose to be in office. And so the only way that's going to happen is if I get my vote in and not count on others and the outcome to just come out the way I want it to be. And so that is like the first step to addressing that. I know people will try to get that point across in a variety of ways. So it will take a little practice, but that's also why I'm going to throw my email in here as well. Because it can be a easy conversation for some and a complicated conversation, or some people may make it complicated for you.
Mhm.
And so we're actually working a lot on, at Empower Project, we're working a lot with disinformation and just disrupting that. So those very beliefs that our votes don't matter, and how we can actually address that so people can actually start showing up to the polls.
And we'll have something where you could just let them know, I understand, I'm sorry to hear that, but if you change your mind, go to michigan.gov/vote and register to vote. Yeah, send them there. You can't argue with people, but we just gently can prod them.
Yeah, very much. You keep your peace. Please do keep your peace in these conversations. Yeah, so use your discretion, but we will try to provide responses, so you don't have to type something unique every time, just adjust it to go with the conversation. And so going into that, we have 3 calls to actions. We broke them into 3 just to, sometimes it feels better to make a to-do list of smaller tasks so you can see when you accomplish those little things. And so that's what we're doing here for you, is breaking them into smaller tasks so you can check those things off as you go. So that first ask we're having for all of you here today is to download the Empower app and create your account. If you do come across any problems after this call, please take my email down in the chat, and I can help you out and just make sure you're good to go. But secondly, once you do download the app, you'll be that first call to action that I showed you, the personal call to action will prompt you to check out the Vote Voiced website and our voting plan that Donna has created. So Donna has used this, I believe, for a few years now, and so hopefully it's helpful to you. just so you also know all the steps that we should consider as ourselves as voters as well. And so lastly, also consider inviting 3 people onto Empower. I'm sorry, your name was Casey. I saw you brought your family. So you're already on top of that. So it's as simple as just getting people that you know care about what you care about or care that you are passionate about something. Tapping into those folks and just being like, hey, I'd love if you could do this for me. We just have a few weeks left. So it'll just be maybe like an hour of your week that you dedicate to this work. So it's also, if you have fun with it, we encourage you to keep going. We're not limiting you on that whatsoever, but does anybody have any questions about these calls to action?
Let me say, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, we definitely want this to feel meaningful for you. So this is very meaningful work for myself. So I do hope that you are getting to grow as you're doing this work as well.
And John, you had a question?
Yes, Donna. On step 2,
Mhm.
are they, I don't understand, is it the same plan, whether you go to vote voice or there's a click on Empower app that you could get the same plan?
Yes. Yeah, so you
And
can
is this-
access it either way.
Okay. Now, I have written off phone banking through many aggravating experiences, but I am open to text banking. Is
Mhm.
text banking an option here?
Yes.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
we're doing. Yes,
Alright.
sir.
Thank you.
So-
And I want to, oh, go ahead, Mayte,
No,
real
go
quick.
ahead. I was gonna go to the next slide. Go ahead.
I was just going to go real quickly and tell everybody, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for considering volunteering with Vote Voice. I appreciate it. And I know how precious volunteers are. I just want to say that. And thank you to Evelyn for inviting us here to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about our text banking call to action. So that's what we're leading up to. So next Friday on October 21st, the text banking action will become available. So right now we're gonna be setting up the list. So once you download the app, we can start figuring out how we're gonna divide the lists. And so we encourage you to download the list or download the app, I would say before Wednesday, just so you can get familiar with it and get rolling once Friday does come along. But once you have your assigned texting list, we'll be here if you want to reach out to us, whether it's on the app or through the email that emails we provided. That I did want to remind y'all, when you do download the app, just as when you download any app, it will ask you if you want to receive notifications. We ask you to leave those notifications on just so you can be notified come Friday.
I have another question. Are there certain hours for if we're gonna do the texting, can you just do it when you have 20 minutes here or 40 minutes there? Or some text banks want you to
Yes.
do it at a certain
Yes.
time?
Definitely, yeah.
No, you pick the time. That's why I'm giving you several days to do it at your convenience.
Great.
Yeah, so the only thing I say in terms of time is, of course, keeping it within a reasonable time frame. Probably like 9 to 9 is a reasonable time to be interacting with folks. I would say probably after 8-ish, it starts getting a little late. So just keeping that in mind as well. That's
Right.
Yeah. Is there any other questions? That's what we have for you for today, and we're really excited. I get really
Thank
excited
you.
when I get to work with new groups of people, whether it's your first time or not. It's a very unique experience, especially text banking, since it's something kind of still new in the organizing world. So you are in for some unique experiences and some fun conversations as well.
Well, thank you
Thank
both,
you. That's all
Donna and
for us.
Mayte. I'm sorry, go on, Donna.
I was gonna say that's all for us today. Go ahead, Evelyn.
Awesome. This was absolutely amazing, educationally wonderful. So thank you guys. Thank you both for being here and presenting and sharing your time with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And thank you all for your time today. I I feel grateful to be able to share this Sunday morning with y'all. So thank you for staying engaged.